Good morning. I'd like to talk with you a little bit today about life expectations. A lot of us are living for the quantity or the quality of life. And sometimes we can have both, and sometimes it changes from day to day. Most of my life, I've always kind of wanted to live a quality type of life, and enjoy some of the things and treasure the moments and be feel complete or happy with the things that are going on. Equality. Enjoying the things that the good Lord has offered us. A lot of times I enjoyed being out in nature. That to me was a quality that was very nice. Um, Enjoying some of the man-made things. Like museums, concerts, and things where you encourage the soul. You embolden the soul to interact with your mortality. A lot of things. Just simple things like going out fishing, sitting on the riverbank fishing. You know, to me, that's a quality of life. The friends we choose are a quality of life. Um, Many times growing up or through your entire life, you meet people who become very close to you, and you become close to them, and you feel comfortable interacting with them and their lives. Um, we don't just interact with them just as we are being friends, but we interact with them and their families as well. And that's a quality of life because life is so short. We we have just a finite time here upon the face of the earth. It seems like forever when you're mentioning, people living to be 70, 80, 90 years old. That seems like a long time, but in the past, that was just a drop in the bucket. Some of them lived 600 years. Well, we didn't know how they judged a year back then, but they were said to live 600 to 900 years. So that definitely theirs was a quantity of life type situation, and maybe a quality as well. If you read in the scriptures, you read that many of them had quality lives. Many of them were servants of God. Their entire life wasn't, you know, in quality. A lot of them were very disliked people in their early lives. You look at some of them were murderers. Some of them were, you know, uh, thieves. Some of them were just harsh verbal men. Like take Peter. He is supposedly a very vulgar man with the way he approached life. He was a fisherman, and he spoke hoarse and coarse of things, and he drank, and he was a very obnoxious man to a lot of people. But in him, God saw something better. Jesus saw something better, and he went on to become one of the greatest disciples there were of Jesus Christ. This all goes to quality as well. You know, Quality from day to day. I think it changes from moment to moment, though. When I was younger and in my teens, I might have thought more of quantity of life then, wanting to live a long time. I didn't in my youth think that I would be living very long, especially up to this age. I thought I'd be long gone before now because I'm very active in different things and things that were challenging and sometimes even dangerous. And so, and many people, even as have said along through the years, I didn't think you'd make it that long. Didn't you'd make it, you'd get this old. I remember when I was living in one of the senior citizen places over in Winfield, one of the people that came and delivered the medicine for some of the people, he used to be the vice principal at the school. Uh, and him and I didn't get along very well when I was in high school. I was in his office more than I was in class for the first part of my high school years. And after a while, after I had to leave because I got in so much trouble, when I came back, I realized it was time to straighten up. Well, that gentleman kind of helped me in a way, but anyways, I saw him in the elevator delivering some meds to people, and he recognized me, and I spoke to him a little bit, and he goes, I didn't think you was ever going to make it to graduate high school. I said, you're not the only one. I didn't either. And he laughed, and we talked a lot, and we talked until he got off the elevator, and I'd see him every once in a while, and he'd say hello, and it was a different situation now as I've gotten older, seeing him as he's gotten older. But he used to be the authority figure, and now he was just, somebody else. He was just a guy. And quality of life also is how you approach at the time of life that you are experiencing things. Like now in my life, as I've gotten older, the quality is not as out there as it used to be. I mean, I'm not seeking to go on any thrill adventures. If I get out and travel over to the store, that's adventure enough for me at this point. I just don't need all that stuff. I don't need the excitement and stuff. Right now, I think with most people as they get a little older, they deal more with the personal side of things, the spiritual side, the soul searching side, the strength building through spirituality. A lot of us do that, and I think that helps. But I also think that again is a good quality of life, but it also helps us in the quantity of life. As we've calmed down our lives and stuff, I think we tend to live a little bit longer because we're not as stressed as we used to be. Stress can take a mighty toll on people, and so I think sometimes quantity and quality walk hand in hand. Like I said, different stages in our lives, we might think that we wanted the quantity of life, and then when we get to a little later age, we think, well, maybe I'd just as soon have the quality of life. Many times I've been into the hospital with things that I didn't really want to go through, but I had to go through, and I thought, if it offers me the quantity of life, I would rather have the quality. If I'm going to be in a vegetative state for some reason, I just assume it over with. I don't want that. I don't want to last a long time in that. And it's the same, living in life right now. As I'm getting older and more things are starting to fall apart and happen, I don't look as much at the quantity anymore. I think the quality. I just soon have the quality. I know a lot of us, as we've gotten older, have started filling out our wills. We've done the DNRs for our health care and for our wishes that we need for when our funerals come about, what we need, what we would like to have. We're not going to be here, but we can leave kind of an idea of what we would like to have take place at the time where we depart. Living wills, a lot of times people just need to prepare a living will, because I myself, I know, again, if I get into a place to where they're going to put me on life support for the most part, I don't see that as life. That's just, and so I have a DNR and a living will, and I encourage others when they get into this age especially to look into that and to research that and to do that, because that gives you, when you no longer have the mental capacity or the physical capacity to make those decisions, you can leave something behind that allows the ones that are going to make those decisions that you wish them to make. And that makes it easier on them. That helps them in their quality of life. That way they don't have to make all those, detrimental or upsetting decisions at the time that things happen to you. Well, I just want to talk a little bit today about the quantity and quality. I've, like I said, reached that point now to where the quantity has hit me, and I didn't think I'd ever be here, so I didn't really plan for this stage of life as well as I could have. But I did have a quality of life, and I have had a quality of life. I have, like all of you out there, many friends and family. You know, that has been a quality. Yeah, and I enjoyed having that quality within the quantity I've had so far. And if I live longer, then I will still, have the same thought that I just soon have the quality than the quantity. So, any of you out there who know me, you know that that's pretty much the way I felt for many years. Quantity isn't that important to me, but to many people it is. To many, they feel that if they live longer, then they can get more accomplished. But sometimes the things that we need to have accomplished have already been in our lives, has already taken place. So the quantity isn't that important, at least not to me. But just let me know, how do you feel about these things? How does it affect you? Do you live for the quantity or the quality of life? Everybody does it differently, and what stage are you at? And maybe tell us how it changed, how your idea, your perspective on life, or your desires of life have changed, if they've changed at all. Like I said, mine has changed a lot. I have went to pretty much a solid quality of life than I am of quantity. But I might still be here for many years. I don't know. That's up to the good Lord. But I do encourage you all to seek out the gospel and seek out the Word of God, because it is definitely a quality of life changer. It helps you to get a sense of where you are heading in your spiritual self and in your spiritual abilities and your soul. I've just been speaking to some people lately where they've come to a place in later life to understand that the person they have always been was there, but it wasn't brought out at the time. But it may be now. Maybe now you finally understand who you are, who you really are. And I'm happy to say that. I'm happy you find out those things. Sometimes it takes a long time for people to realize who they really are, who their spiritual self is. And then they get a chance to enjoy that aspect, that quality of life that they might have missed a lot of in their lives. Well, I just want to jump on here today and talk to you a little bit about that, because that has been on my mind a little bit. So I want you to know I love you, and I thank you for listening to me and putting up with this old man rattling on most of the time. But it's been a good life for the most part, and all of you have been part of it. And so I'm happy to have had you in my lives, and I love you very much. And I guess I'll talk to you later on. You have a great day.